Hello, my name is Brianna Lewis, and welcome to On Point. America the Great is, well, not so great, at least when it comes to STEM, science, technology, engineering, and math. The Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development surveyed more than 150,000 adults from around the world and found America, once the leader in technology and innovation, has fallen behind. The study ranked the U.S. 21 out of 23 countries in math and 17 out of 19 countries in problem solving. Millions of STEM jobs go unfilled every year because there aren't enough qualified workers. If the current trend continues, as many as 2.4 million STEM jobs will be unfilled by 2018. This has created an urgency to encourage younger generations to embrace these subjects. In November 2009, President Obama launched the Educate to Innovate initiative to bring American students to the front of the pack in STEM education. This initiative includes a particular objective to diversify the STEM talent pool by including more women and people of color. The National Science Foundation and the U.S. Census Bureau found only 1 in 3 STEM degrees are awarded to women, and only about 1 in 10 are awarded to underrepresented minorities. A significant amount of private sector and government money is funding similar STEM initiatives across the country, including grants and scholarships to support STEM students. Along with general classroom education, STEM educators are trying to incorporate practical skills that students need to get jobs. Here at CSUN, the Mechanical Engineering Department incorporates real-life engineering skills through the Formula Society Automotive Engineers class and the Matador Motorsports Racing Club. Through competition and the real-life application of theory, students build a Formula-style race car that competes in Lincoln, Nebraska as one of 80 teams from around the world. In this video, Team Project Manager Luis Oliveira explains what it takes to be a part of Matador Motorsports.
You have to have the motivation and you have to have the passion to do something that's really, really special. So this project is a project that CSUN's had since 1991. Their best result was a 7th place in 2007. And 7th place is really good. It's a great, fantastic result. But we really want to do something special. We want to go out there and we want to bring back a better result. We want to go and compete with the top 3 guys out there and maybe even win. This particular team has been under works for 2 years. And these 2 years have been scouting the people in engineering. So we scouted the best students, the students that are the most skilled, the most intelligent, the most motivated. And this particular car has been underway since summer of 2013. The consensus from our faculty advisor is it takes really about 5,000 man-hours to build a Formula car. This is a full-time job. And so if you're a student, you have a family, and you have a job, Formula is probably not the best project for you. But if you are willing to really sacrifice your last year of school to finish the difficult classes that we go through while still committing at least 40 hours a week to this project, then you have what it takes and you end up building a good car. The judges, the guys that are walking around are all working in IndyCar, Formula One, SpaceX, JPL. Those guys are the ones that are there looking at your car. And when you can be proud of your team and you can be proud of your car and proud of all this insane amount of work that we put into there and still impress one of those guys, that makes it all worth it.
On Point's Michael Teemant is here with more on the story. Michael?
Thank you, Brianna. Today on the panel, we have members from the CSUN Matador Motorsports Racing Team. We have Mayra Montesinos, the composites lead for the team, Ryan Camiré, the drivetrain and manufacturing specialist, and Dr. Stephen Graves from the CSUN Geography Department. Guys, thanks for being here today.
Thank you.
Good to be here.
So first question, when you tell people that you're in mechanical engineering and then you tell them you're part of a race team, what's the normal reaction for that?
Mostly it's like, oh, I feel so sorry for you. You probably don't see daylight. That's usually about it. Or like, you must be really good at math. Is it hard? Or I couldn't do it. Stuff like that.
What about you, Ryan?
A lot of that. A lot of people have no idea what we actually do in our lab. And I pretty much tell them that we spend a year and a half designing a car, and we slowly but surely bring that design into an actual product. And we not only do the the scientific analysis behind it, but we also physically build it ourselves. So we're not just engineers, we're also like craftsmen.
And that's one of the things, is there's actually a class component to this. Now, what do you learn in the class, and how is that different being in a class where you actually build a car from scratch versus a class where you learn more of the theory? Ryan?
Oh, well, we have classes like internal combustion theory and vehicle dynamics, where you learn about how to actually analyze the parts of the car, actually design them properly. But our project is also our senior design project, which every engineering major has to do. So it's less of a class and more of just a year-long activity class. And we have our supervisor, Dr. Prince, who he pretty much keeps an eye on us the whole time, but really lets us do whatever we want. He just makes sure that we don't waste a lot of money or hurt ourselves.
Dr. Graves, how does the physical geography department give the kind of real-life experience that students might experience in the real world in the workforce?
Well, we try to monitor what employers, for example, are asking for. We have a broad alumni group from which we can ask questions. So what are the kind of things that you guys are doing now at your place of employment? What are the things that we could do? How could we train up the current crop of geographers so that when they go into the fields of employment, they can suit the things that these employers are looking for. So we fish around, and sometimes we guess, sometimes right, sometimes wrong, but we hope we do more right than wrong in terms of trying to guess what are the skill sets needed for a new crop of scientists and technicians.
And a lot of people will say, well, should this money be spent on that? I know the race car team gets about $20,000, somewhere in that ballpark, from associated students. When people see those kind of numbers, a lot of times they're like, that's a lot of money. What kind of benefit do students not in the department get from the associated students spending that kind of money?
I think they look at it as an investment, really, because this project is for the future engineers, the people that are going to be building things, designing cars or going into aerospace. So I think they see it as a great investment for not just like our future, but also like the future of the community, and also just in general, everywhere.
It's also a more tangible result is when we take this car to a competition at the end of June. It's a very prestigious and very competitive competition. So when they see CSUN in the top 10, it really puts us on the map.
Mm-hmm.
Dr. Graves, now with students going into these fields, how do you see any difference from when they actually see the book and theory versus going out and doing some of the tasks? Do you see in the students like they finally get it or anything like that?
Well, it's a lot more fun, I would imagine. The students would agree, the book part of it is necessary. It's the necessary evil, I suppose. It'd be much better just to start wrenching on the car or going out in the field and collecting data samples like we do, but you have to have both sides. You have to be able to connect the theory to the practical application. But I think one of the real important things is trying to have fun doing all of that, and certainly I would have thought that was great fun building a race car. I was, kind of a grease monkey myself, so, that would have not only been fun, but a real taste of what you might do. Drag just to read the books all the time.
Absolutely. For the Formula One team or the Formula SAE team, what is the difference between getting a mechanical engineer degree and some people might say go to a mechanic school? What are the things you guys learned that makes it so much different that you feel a mechanical engineering degree is more important?
Well, we do a lot of hands-on, but also it's more behind, it's the design part. So you get to design whether you want to go into aerospace, electrical, or anything like that, but you're not physically working on this stuff. You're the designer, you're creating this. So you're coming up with new ideas of how to solve situations or problems that are out in the world.
I think this project's the best one to do because it literally involves every subdiscipline of engineering in some way or shape or form or another, mostly mechanical design, but it really it creates a greater unity between the gearheads and then the people who are book smart, who know how to run the computers and the simulations and things like that. It's kind of brings those two a little closer together, so you don't have you have more well-rounded engineers coming out of this program.
And outside the Formula One stuff and the different projects, we're starting to see private companies get involved. Now we have the STEM initiative set by the president and Congress to try and get more minorities and women involved in the sciences, which are predominantly white and predominantly male. Why would different companies, they just had an event in Iowa where Honda and Ford were two of the biggest sponsors of the event, and they're promoting trying to get high school kids into STEM. Why is this, there's a lot of jobs out there. Why are the private companies getting involved if it's already something that people need? Dr. Graves, sorry.
The private companies are the ones who need the STEM scientists. That's science, technology, engineering, and mathematics, I think, is the way that it normally works. And there is a fear that, and I think it's founded by the statistics, that not enough people are going into it nowadays. I mean, you can look at this campus and the number of people who are in non-STEM majors is really pretty astounding when there's this massive demand for those kind of jobs. And of course, everybody's got a right to, study whatever they want to, but the economy is heavily dependent upon the people in that sector of the economy. I think it's exceptionally, from a geographic standpoint, the way that we look at things, that we're looking not only at science and technology, but also culture and economy, politics and that kind of thing. And having a diverse workforce is one of the things that's made the STEM sector in California really super strong. If you think about where is the most robust STEM area in the country, it's Silicon Valley, right? And that's not just a bunch of white men. Maybe at one point it was years ago largely that, but today it's highly international, it's very diverse, and it's the diversity of ideas, men, women, and people of from every background, every walk of life. When they can come together and mix up their ideas, that you get something that's far more powerful. So the United States has huge potential that way. Seems odd that they would be working on it out in Iowa where they don't have, it's not quite the situation we have here. They need to come to CSUN and see the full power of the diversity and what that can provide. Not only their companies, but the overall economy in the United States going forward into the next century.
Well, Mayra, you're the female on the panelists. Engineering, about 13% of the workforce. It's the lowest of the STEM, the different STEM degrees. Engineering is the lowest. What's it like being a woman in engineering? Is it different from maybe your other classes?
Yes, it definitely is. Walking into classes, you're probably one of three maybe women, or maybe the only one. I know this past summer I took a class, I was the only woman in that class. But it's definitely different if you go on to different classes like sociology, psychology, you do see a lot of different, you see more women. And I think science is definitely doable for everyone. It's just the practice of, practicing math, science, of, just kind of getting started and getting started young. So, yeah, it's difficult, but it's also fun.
Okay, and that's kind of one of the things is like, so some people say, they're like, well, the people who are interested are going to be interested. Why is it important to try and make more people interested in the STEM, the STEM majors for the workforce? Dr. Graves?
Well, the economy needs them, but too, it's a pathway into a better life. That the people who go into many of the STEM disciplines, that's a pathway to a middle class life, getting, living in a nice house and a nice neighborhood and opportunities for your kids. But I think that there is a sense among a lot of people, and I think it's well documented, that, oh, I'm a girl, I can't do math, you know, sort of that Barbie attitude, or many minority students, oh, I went to a crappy high school, or, you know, something like that. And it's completely not true. It's a mindset. So if you go on to North Campus there, where there's a lot of the engineering students, you'll find a great number of people who were Asian, South Asians, East Asians, and I suppose white guys who have been told from the time that they were a young person that you can do this. You know, that's you know, sort of in your blood, and that's cultural, but there's no real basis to it. It's just a mindset, and having shows like this and students like you really make a difference. You know, that's what we need, more of you out there going, hey, look, I'm a girl.
And I'm doing it.
And I
yeah.
can do it. It can be done, and it's great, and it's fun. You know, girls can race cars too. and build them.
Yes.
We'll have a lot more to talk about right after this.
Can't let him make it.
Dude, you better not be illegally downloading movies again. I don't want a virus on my computer. Seriously.
Yes!
Got it.
They got it. What an idiot.
When you rip off copyrighted material, someone could be ripping you off.
What the? Where's my money?
Thank you for calling your GED Pep Talk Center. All right, now, are you ready for your GED Pep Talk?
Being nervous is okay. It just shows that you're serious about getting your diploma.
A lot of things are scary. Heck, I'm scared of clowns.
No quiero ir. Danny, no lo puedo hacer.
DMC, life in your pep talk style.
Just keeping it real, Debs. Just keeping it real.
Whatever motivation you need, we've got a pep talk for you. Get your GED pep talk and find free classes at yourged.org.
The top 11 jobs coming straight out of college are all STEM majors. You start, the lowest pay scale was starting on average $52,000 a year. You'd think with that kind of immediate response with graduation and getting a job, a secure job where it's actually really high benefits going up in the field, that more people are interested. What made you guys interested? Ryan, can we start with you?
Yeah, I've just always been heavily into mathematics and science ever since high school. I mean, I skipped all but one math class just because of high school AP credit, and I only had to take one in college. So, I mean, it was kind of just natural for me, and I just said, oh, I'll give it a try. And then I was like, I like this, so I just kept doing it. So I was just kind of lucky that I found something I like to do right away. Some people do it and then aren't sure if they want to continue with it or if they can, and they just kind of either fail or quit, and it's really tough to stay with it. Like, I think when I took Introduction to Engineering, it's just like the ME 101 class. They said, oh, look around you, and like there's the 8 desks around you, and they said only like 2 tops of those people are going to be with you at graduation, and they're not exaggerating.
That's true.
So like it's just something like you really got to know right away whether you want to do it or not, and I've determined pretty quick that I was going to do it. Stay to the end.
Do you guys think that sometimes like the competitiveness of STEM majors, because it's majorly competitive in engineering, math, most pre-med, does that intimidate people from maybe going into the sciences when they might think, okay, I enjoy science, but I don't know if I can do this? Dr. Graves?
I think so. I teach a statistics class every semester that our majors have to go through, and a lot of people are pretty freaked out about it. And I think that my job, as much as anything in the first few weeks, is to play psychologist with the students and tell them, hey, yes, it's difficult, but it can be done. You have to develop a sense of your own ability, and it's not, though it might be rocket science, those rocket scientists may or may not be smarter than you, but one thing they probably are is harder working than you. And there's a sense, some students just don't want to work that hard. I think a lot of students haven't had an opportunity to, or haven't been pressed to work really hard and then see what comes of it. Because that's what happens frequently at the end of my classes. Those students who can tough it out, they're like, oh my gosh, I studied like crazy and I got an A. I could do it after all. And they're sort of surprised at their own capabilities. And so I think there's a lot of psychology to it. It's trying to bust those cultural barriers down, the sense that, you know, I don't want to do it too much. And it's too hard, I can't do it. And I really say, you know, you're probably a lousy piano player right now. Why? Because you haven't practiced, right? So this is something you just have to practice, and that work ethic is something that students have to practice at. I think a lot of the students that come from other countries here to get engineering degrees or science degrees of some sort have had a lot of years of that kind of nose to the grindstone thing. And if you don't get it from your parents, it's hard to get it. I think it may be a cultural thing in our schools that, oh, you know, we don't want anybody to fail, and I see the value in that. But also, if you have that attitude, then people are never pressed to realize their own really super huge potential. It's there, and I see it in my students. I know you're really smart. You just haven't worked hard enough to bust through that shell that you've created for yourself. It's going to be a long road for us to get that back, if we are to ever to get it back. And you know, again, we've got inspiration here, good old Americans, and they can do it, right?
Well, to go off that, we rank K through 12 one of the lowest of industrialized countries. India's ahead of us now. China is number one. Russia's right ahead of us. Even smaller industrialized countries like Estonia and Czech Republic are ranked higher than us. Can we gain that ground, and what do we need to do in order to get people interested or care about science more? Mayra?
I think you just got to start right from the beginning when they're growing up, you know, show them math, show them that it's not scary in the sciences. Get them, like, interested, but like also have that curiosity to kind of see how things work, or you know, get them just started in science in general very early. I think that would be the best, and it helps.
Is the way we're teaching science effective, K through 12, in which we can get over these barriers and get higher test scores?
I would say that, you know, if you look more closely into those statistics, that you find that American schools serve certain groups of students really well, particularly in certain states, certain cities, and that American students are not behind anybody in the STEM disciplines up until, what is it, like 8th grade, 9th grade, something like that. And then we get on to high school. We've disinvested. We don't pay teachers very much. So some of the very talented people, they want to live a nice middle class life too. And if they have the scientific capabilities, they very well may not choose to apply them in some school, especially a school that has discipline problems or something like that. My high school experience had no race car building, and that very well could have been a way to get not only me, but the gearhead kids from my neighborhood. They wanted a hot rod, and we had a shop class. But I think a lot of those dudes were, that took shop could have also been down in the physics class as well, trying to connect the two. But they didn't do that because, well, those kids, they're off in shop, and, the physics kids are down here, and they're just getting prepared to take the SAT, which was all on paper, right? Mm-hmm. The kind of thing, the innovative sorts of things that we're doing here would have been very welcome in my high school experience. Now, my wife teaches middle school science, and they are very heavily invested in experiential-based learning, meaning lots of labs, lots of time outdoors, lots of, blowing things up and catching things on fire, which is what kids really like. But she teaches in one of the best school districts in the entire state. They've got plenty of money. They've got the ability to do these sorts of things, and I'm certain that it doesn't happen at more of the hard luck neighborhoods. And that's a real shame, because we're just kind of throwing those kids, we're just saying, well, we don't really believe in you, or it's too burdensome on our taxes. People say you can't throw money at it, but I wonder when it's ever been tried. I know when I was a kid, they didn't throw money at us. So, I'm 47 and nobody has ever thrown money at me or my educational system that I've been working in, and I've been doing it all my life. So.
Well, last question. If we are going to try and connect with the rest of society and try and promote science, what would you guys have people know about the things you know about science that might help them get more interested in science? Mayra?
I think just finding a support group. I know sometimes your parents are like, no, you can't do that, or you're not smart enough, friends as well. So maybe even finding those support groups where friends are like, no, let's do this, or having, like I said, like schools, they do need to kind of input more money into sciences, and, like, the professor here said, having them blow stuff up, that way they can get curious and kind of see, how things work. So stuff like that, I think, definitely would help them out and kind of, spark that kind of creativity within science and stuff.
Okay. Ryan?
Yeah, it does need more funding in high school level. I had the privilege of going to a private school which had a nice chem lab and a biology lab for 9th through 12th grade, but my friends didn't have that. They had kind of a not so good one of those, if they had it at all, and they just didn't even get to experience this before going on to college. So they just went on to, they just like, oh, I think I like studying English, so I'll do that. And now they're kind of wishing they had done something like engineering or something where they can actually train for a trade. And I think like science, more like science clubs and things where students are doing it themselves, and they'll kind of get the ball rolling and suck more of their fellow students in easier that way. That's what I felt about it.
Well, I think these guys have the idea. It's, make science fun. Don't make it simply about answering multiple choice. I mean, that's where we've gone in recent years, is fill in the bubbles, and that's how the school is evaluated. How good were your test scores? And that's kind of a silly thing to do. How good were the students that you produced in a more holistic manner? Because, the faculty here know the problem-solving students may not always have been the ones that did best on some standardized test. But, politicians want, and school districts want, what's the test scores? And that's kind of a silly way of going about things. It's not really scientific, is it? It's not based in legitimate measures of success in these fields.
Well, thank you all for joining us today. That's all the time we have. Back to you.
Thank you for watching On Point. If you would like to see more, you can follow us on Facebook or Twitter at CSUN On Point. You can watch the show every Sunday morning at 11:30 on Time Warner Cable's LA 36. This is On Point. I'm Brianna Lewis.